Hi, I'm Damian Martin from the Perth Wildcats, and I'm going back to school with Student Edge.
Hi, I'm Simon Morato, and today we're going back to school with Damian Martin. Damian, thanks for chatting to us today.
My pleasure.
What were you like as a teenager?
As a teenager, I grew up in a country town, so I was a typical country town boy where it was as much sport as possible outside of school, and because we didn't have a whole lot else to entertain ourselves, as hanging out with friends, getting up to a little bit of mischief. But overall, it was just embracing country lifestyle. So my best friend had plenty of horses, so we might be out there one weekend doing a bit of cattle work, and then the next weekend would be around kicking a football or shooting a basketball. So it was pretty quiet, but I loved it. It was purely based on family and friends.
Nice. Well, equestrian wasn't the sport of choice you wanted to go down?
I was a horrible horse rider, so I actually broke my wrist once and it ruled me out for about 6 weeks. So after that, I haven't ridden a horse all that often, but I love it. I love getting back home as often as possible and getting out on my mate's farm, but in saying that I was useless when it came to any cattle work.
Well, as you kind of said, you were always kind of waiting to get out there on the field. Did you enjoy being in the classroom at all? Were there any subjects you did kind of shine in, or was it pretty much waiting for the bell to ring to get out into the court?
I didn't hate school at all. I didn't embrace it, but I didn't mind going there, whether it was the social aspect to it or there were a few classes in particular I enjoyed, such as geography and English, and obviously PE or the sport. But overall, I was lucky. There was only one high school in Gloucester, so everyone that you'd see in the classroom are the same people you'd see walking down the main street of town. So it was nice in that aspect that it was a tight-knit community, and spent either time in the classroom with them or out on a field playing sport.
So how do you make the decision then that basketball is going to be the career you like the path you go down? Was that always the plan from the beginning, that this is what you wanted to do with your life?
Basketball was a sport I excelled at, but in saying that, there was not enough numbers in Gloucester to continue playing representative basketball as a 15-year-old. So my dad offered me the opportunity to go and play for a team in the Hunter Valley. So I chose Lake Macquarie, which is down near Newcastle. And it's funny, when you grow up, you don't realise how selfish you are. It's only in hindsight that I was the one complaining about having to get in the car for an hour-and-a-half drive each way, back and forth. And Dad was working all day, knocking off work, and then taking me to Newcastle. 3 hours of driving plus 2 hours, watching me train. Did that twice a week, midweek, and then again on weekends while Mum was at home taking care of 4 kids. And like I said, I was the one complaining about having to spend so much time in a car. The sacrifices they made for that 12 months in particular was just incredible looking back at it. But after the 12 months, I got sick of travelling, and so I made the decision to quit basketball and just focus on rugby league, which all my friends at home were playing. We had enough numbers to play that locally. So after 12 months of rugby league and not having touched a basketball, it was actually Rob Beveridge, my former coach here in Perth. Back then he was the New South Wales Institute of Sport coach, and he called my father and I and asked if we'd be willing to meet him at Raymond Terrace, which was an hour drive away at the local McDonald's. Not having McDonald's in town, it seemed like a great idea to get out of Gloucester for the afternoon, but it was the first time that anybody had really opened my eyes to the future basketball could offer if I worked hard enough. And he made me picture myself in 5 or 10 years. What sport would I see myself in? What would be my ultimate goals? And ever since the '92 Barcelona Olympics, where my eldest brother and I would watch as much sport as possible and tape it on the old VHS and re-watch it, I'd always dreamed of being an Olympian. And when I told him that, between my goal of wanting to be an Olympian and how he saw my future panning out if I went to basketball, I promised him I'd quit rugby league that day. He'd offered me a scholarship to the New South Wales Institute of Sport for basketball, and the rest is history.
So you got that scholarship, but I understand you also played college ball in the US.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about this?
It was incredible how after quitting basketball, going to rugby league, but then coming back, how quickly things started to turn around. And based on, Bevo gave me that New South Wales scholarship to the Institute of Sport, and then I went from there to the Australian Institute of Sport. And while I was there, Matty Knight was one of my teammates, who's currently a teammate here in Perth, but also there was Andrew Bogut, who's obviously in the NBA now, and a bunch of other guys that have gone on to represent Australia. And Maddie and I both got scholarships offered to us to go and attend Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. And it's funny, these days the Aussie kids will get flown over there and they try to sell the campus to them, sell the lifestyle. We made a decision based on a DVD they sent us. So yeah, that looks pretty nice, let's do it. So we agreed to heading over there to continue our studies. So it was amazing, and everybody growing up through basketball that wants to continue on. Not everyone can play professionally, but I try to encourage them to get over and to America and you get a degree paid for, continue your education, and the basketball is amazing. And hopefully if that leads to a professional job either in Australia or abroad, fantastic. Otherwise, at least you've got a degree. And
what was your degree in over there?
it was a teaching degree essentially, so equivalent, but I never got to do the prac work. So if I want to be a school teacher here in Australia, I've got to get back in the classroom for a few more classes. But
the irony.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. If I want to teach, I better learn first. But in saying all of that, it was the most fun 4 years of my life. Unfortunately, I missed a season through an injury, but enjoy lifestyle of living abroad, college lifestyle where they really embrace, passion for their school, their alumni, and then as a whole, just 4 years living in Los Angeles as an Australian was just amazing to do it alongside a friend in particular. So 4 years over there, whereas like a bad comedy movie with the everything you could think of with the sororities, the fraternities, the jocks, so on and so forth. But to come back here to my first professional job in Sydney and have 2 years in Sydney and now 7th season over here in Perth, it's just gone by so quickly.
Is that something you knew would be part of this career, travelling so much to kind of not get work, but to play for these different teams and to get these experiences? Is that something you accepted or were even excited about early on, or is it something you have to adjust to?
Yeah, it's one thing that's always appealed to me. Going back to that '92 Olympic dream, unfortunately there's some sports that obviously are embraced here in Australia, whether it's AFL, rugby league, rugby union with the 15s, but isn't played in the Olympics. So I made that decision a little bit easier, that if I was ever going to attain that goal, it was a no-brainer to give up rugby league for basketball. But the travelling is just amazing. It really is a world sport, and whether it's playing a World Championships in Turkey one year or the Olympics in Rio, outside of those two things, I've been lucky enough as a junior to travel around and have these stay in accommodation I could never afford personally, but because I was with a team or through the university, it's all paid for. And regardless if I'd ever made it as a professional athlete, I'd look back at those basketball years and be very grateful for the parts of the world I got to see through a basketball.
Well, one of those parts of the world is Rio. You played for the Rio 2016 Australian team and you became pretty close to beating the Dream Team as well. I have to ask, when you're facing off against guys like Carmelo Anthony, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, who you stole the ball from and everyone's very happy about, what is it like going up against those kind of titans? Is it the equivalent of any other basketball match you might play, or does it feel different?
Yeah, it's funny because we had so many guys in the Boomers team that are already in the NBA. Sure. They're not starstruck by any name or any player. So the amount of confidence they instilled in the rest of the group, it was amazing. So we went into that game genuinely believing we could beat them, and secondly, trying to not get caught up in any type of being starstruck at all. And it is, in saying all that though, I'm the first to admit that usually in Australia I'd train, go home, sit on the couch and watch an NBA game. So to go from that to then having a scouting report put in front of me 2 days out from the game where I'm reading, how we're going to guard Klay Thompson or how we're going to guard Kevin Durant, that's where it kind of hit home that, yeah, this is happening. So that being a bit starstruck probably happened when I read the scouting report and watched the scouting video. But once we stepped on the court to play them, it really was out the window. And, as corny as it sounds, it really was treated as another game, albeit it was against, the Dream Team.
On top of that, you are now also a playable character in NBA 2K. What is that like? Have you played yourself on the court?
I've never played it, to be honest. I'm not much of a gamer, but it's funny. Usually after a win or a loss, I get messages from people I've never met through social media, either telling me how to play better or congratulating me on a few things. But now I probably get more emails about someone telling me, hey, I crossed you up on 2K today, or hey, make some shots in 2K. But the funny thing is, someone sent me a picture and it doesn't look anything like me, and I'm pretty sure I play right-handed, so I'm actually left-handed.
Really?
But in 2K, I don't think they spent much time on my play. I think they were more focused on some of the bigger names, but it is pretty cool in hindsight.
2K18, they'll figure it out.
2K18, I might be left-handed.
Damian, thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed that video, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, or find more of our stuff at studentedge.com.au.